May the House please come to order. Esteemed delegates, student officers, faculty advisors, and guests. On behalf of the Secretariat, it is my honor to welcome you all to the 8th session of ZYGMUN Model United Nations. My name is Karolina Kowalska, and I will be serving as your Secretary General. Seated to my left is Zosia Pawlak, Deputy Secretary General. Seated to her left is Maria Lomachevska, the President of the General Assembly, and Emma Downite, the Deputy President of the General Assembly. To her left is Valentina Andrasova, our Head of Admin. We represent the Secretariat of the 8th Annual ZYGMUN Conference, and we proudly welcome you to our opening ceremony. Throughout the ceremony, we will be entertaining speeches from Mr. Zerflu, our school director, 20 student ambassadors, and the head of UNICEF in Poland, Ms. Nona Zicherman.
I would like to sincerely thank the band, Pedro from Ecuador, composed of 4 ASW students, Kale, Soyon, Pablo, and Finn, for their wonderful performance. They were fantastic. I'd also like to thank ASW student May Bai for creating our conference art and providing us with an inspiring cover to accompany us throughout the conference.
Speaking of the arts, we want to invite all delegates and advisors to please take the time this weekend to visit the BDP Visual Arts Exhibition, which debuted last night. You can find the Visual Arts Exhibition in room A113 near the Future Committee. We would also like to ask the audience to please put their phones on airplane mode or to turn them off so as to not interfere with phones during the opening ceremony.
This year's conference features the membership of 200 participants from 12 schools across 10 countries. We are honored to host 6 committees tasked with tackling this year's conference theme, Fostering Innovation and Development for Peace and Justice, which encapsulates the 9th and 16th Sustainable Development Goals. We are thrilled to facilitate a forum for debate in which delegates can collaborate to create actionable solutions to pressing issues of global significance.
At this time, I would like to invite Mr. John Zerflu, the director of the American School of Warsaw, who has been a vital supporter of ZYGMUN ever since the inaugural session in 2018. We're grateful to have him here today to deliver this year's welcoming remarks. With all that being said, Mr. Zerflu, the floor is yours.
She's brilliant. You got to give her a chance to finish, though, okay? Let her get all the words out. It's all good. Thank you for the warm welcome. I do appreciate it very much. And this is a long-standing love of mine to be in front of this group in particular. Let me start by saying first formal welcome as the director of ASW to all of our delegates. You are here in our home, and we want you to feel welcomed. We want you to feel as though you are part of the Warrior family during your time with us, and that you take fond memories with you of your time spent with us. We want to apologize a bit for the "we are growing" part. There's still a little bit of construction activity around. You may hear some drilling and sounds tomorrow. Please work through that and consider maybe you're in a UN meeting on the war front somewhere and you've got things going off in the background. Just use it instead of being interrupted by it, okay? We are a school that's almost finished with a 2-year renovation and construction project. It'll be done in May, and it's exciting to set the school up and be ready for the next 30 years of changing the world for the better. And that's our goal. Our mission has always been changing the world for the better. So you can understand our affinity for Model United Nations, which is the global aspect of understanding how do we get better. I come to you today with some comments that are close to my heart. In past iterations of MUN, I've always stood up here and encouraged robust debate and the issues of the moment as you go into your meetings and represent your countries. You are also preparing yourselves to go out in the world and fight the bigger battles. The battles that you represent here are real. They're happening. It's going on right now. And the most important thing that has changed since my last time at this stage is now words are weapons. We have seen an uptick in looking at very common words that we have used throughout the history of particularly international education, but education in general, and these words are now no longer allowed. Not only that, I myself have been in meetings where benefits, monetary resources, and services are being threatened with cancellation if these words are used. Now, you might be thinking that it's bad words or 5-letter words or 4-letter words. It's not. In fact, the word diversity seems to be at the top of the list. Consider that for a moment, particularly when you're sitting in an audience that's meant to represent countries from around the world and all forms of diversity. How can we allow this to happen? I wrote an article recently, and I'd like to share with you the introduction, some additional comments, and then the conclusion. But I think it's important. And the title of the article kind of says it all. Diversity is not a dirty word. In recent months, we have seen a troubling shift in political discourse, one that suggests that words like diversity are no longer welcome in educational spaces. Policies are being enacted that attempt to erase the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in schools, painting these concepts as divisive, unnecessary, or even illegal. This is not just an attack on terminology, it is an attack on the very fabric of what makes global education meaningful. I have been very thoughtful about this as it has emerged since January. And I've been amazed at the number of people I've seen in meetings, not unlike you right now, quiet. I don't know if you know the term, they look like deers in headlights. You know what that means? It's like deer's on a road, and a deer sees a car coming, and they are frozen by the headlights. When they see the lights, they can't move. Heads of school, students, others around the world look at what's happening and they are frozen. What do we do now? I'm going to encourage you this year and for all future years that you have to push back on this idea that words are weapons. They are not. They are the fodder, the foundation, the deepening of how we understand human beings getting along in the world. We have to listen to the words. We have to debate them. We have to discuss them. We have to understand them and their context. But we dare not outlaw them. We cannot say that a word inflames us so much that we have to pick up a sword or a gun. A word has to inspire us to even further conversation and debate. It cannot be a dividing thing. The core of MUN is how we effectively use words to bring cohesion. How we address issues through our words and through the way in which we explain and re-explain and find the right phrasing to make a difference. So I encourage you through your deliberations this weekend and beyond and on into adulthood when you take on these roles in the real world, because you will. Find the peaceful, deliberative, discussed solution. Don't vilify each other for the words that you use, because that's the wrong path. The conclusion to my article goes like this: a call to action. Education has always been a battleground for larger societal struggles. But history has shown us that progress is only made when those in positions of influence stand firm against efforts to suppress inclusion. We are at a crossroads. International schools and educators worldwide must decide whether they will bow to political pressures or remain steadfast in their commitment to the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and any associated terms that the community has adopted. To every school leader, educator, policymaker, and MUN participant, now is the time to take a stand. Diversity is not a dirty word. It is a necessity. And we must never let political expediency dictate the values we uphold for future generations. That is the mission of MUN, and that is your mission in your debates this weekend. I welcome you all. I thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to what you will develop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zerflu, for your address. The American School of Warsaw is an international community welcoming students from a multitude of backgrounds and personal histories. For this reason, among our own delegates, we're honored to host visiting schools from across the world. This year, ZYGMUN's delegate and student officer body is composed of schools from Turkey, Serbia, Bulgaria, Greece, Ghana, Germany, Montenegro, and Israel, amounting to over 140 delegates from abroad.
We will now be presenting a video introducing the Secretariat. Enjoy.
And I am this year's Secretary General. It is my 4th year of MUN. I'm in 12th grade, second year of IBDP, and it is also my 4th ZYGMUN. I'm standing right now in the Warsaw Old Town Square, right in front of the Zygmunt III Vaza statue. So that was a king who is famous for changing the capital of Poland from Krakow to Warsaw, and you may recognize him from the ZYGMUN logo. Behind me there's also the Royal Castle and the whole Old Town area. While you're here in Warsaw, you're very likely to come here. It is one of the main tourist spots. Right now the weather is quite unappealing, but it's very beautiful here when it's very sunny and warm. So I really encourage you guys to come see this. It's a really nice area, lots of great restaurants and stores as well, and good places for souvenirs if you're into that. And I'm really excited for this year's ZYGMUN conference.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Lomachevska, and I'm honored to be serving as the President of the General Assembly for the 8th iteration of the ZYGMUN Model UN Conference. I'm in 12th grade, and I've been doing MUN for 5 years now. Right now, I'm standing at the entry hallway of the American School of Warsaw, an English-speaking international school in Warsaw, Poland. It was founded in 1953 by members of the U.S. Embassy, and the student body is composed of over 1,000 students housing 60 different nationalities. Over the course of the conference, I hope you all can enjoy what our school has to offer. With that being said, I hope you walk out of this conference having gained new perspectives, met new people, and had fun. I wish you all the very best, and I cannot wait to see you in committee.
Hi everyone, my name is Zosha, and I have the absolute privilege to be serving as the Deputy Secretary General of this year's 8th Annual ZYGMUN Conference. I am currently in 12th grade doing the IB Diploma Program, and this is my 3rd year of MUN participation. Right now, I am next to Pola Mokotowskie, and behind me is the Polish Calvary Monument. It is a 16 meters tall statue that was built in 1994. It depicts 2 horsemen, a PS soldier with a javelin and a lancer with a saber, on galloping horses. It is located next to Pola Mokotowskie Park, which I often enjoy going to, and I highly recommend it. I hope you all enjoy Warsaw as much as I do, and I wish you all the very best, and I cannot wait to meet you all and to see you in all the committees. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emma, and I'm honored to be serving as the Deputy President of the General Assembly at the 8th ZYGMUN Model United Nations Conference. I am currently in 11th grade, and this is my 3rd year doing MUN. I'm currently standing in front of the ZYGMUN Palace. It is one of Poland's most important monuments and a former royal palace, built between 1677 and 1696 for the King of Poland and Grand Duke of Lithuania, Jan III Sobieski. Today, it is a museum and holds a lot of Poland's artistic and cultural heritage. This is also where the director's tour will be happening at 2 p.m. this Friday.
Hey guys, my name is Valentina Andrusova, and I'm your head of admin for this year's ZYGMUN Secretariat, and we are by the Palace of Culture and Science.
We sincerely hope you all enjoyed this video getting to know us. With that, we will now be entertaining speeches from 21 delegate ambassadors on the topic of our conference theme, Fostering Innovation and Development for Peace and Justice. We will be calling out ambassadors in groups of 5 delegations. Once your delegation group is called, please approach the stage in the order in which you were called on my right-hand side and to your left. Due to time constraints, please ensure that your speeches are limited to 60 seconds. For the ambassadors who will not be speaking at the opening ceremony, please make sure to view their ambassador speeches on their respective embassy pages on our ZYGMUN platform.
May the ambassadors of Australia, Brazil, Canada, People's Republic of China, and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea line up in front of the set of stairs closest to the podium in that order. Delegate of Australia, you may approach the podium.
Honorable chairs, distinguished delegates, Australia believes in justice, human rights, and strong international cooperation. As technology develops, our laws must also evolve. We support clear and fair rules to ensure that new technologies are used safely and ethically, protecting people's rights and security. At the same time, Australia strongly criticizes crimes against women and girls committed in the name of honor. No traditional belief can excuse such violence. We must work together to protect victims, punish offenders, and promote gender equality through education. Like Hillary Clinton said, human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights. Let us take action to build a safer world. Thank you. We yield the floor to the chair.
Ambassadors, please keep in mind that you can move the microphone closer to yourself in case that is necessary. Ambassador of Brazil, you may approach the podium.
Honorable chairs, fellow delegates, and esteemed guests. Fostering innovation and development for peace and justice. That's why we're here. It's a noble goal, quite self-evident, but our purpose runs deeper, to face our shortcomings and live up to the ideals we preach so proudly. Brazil knows this hypocrisy well. We protect the Amazon rainforest, yet continue to battle relentless deforestation. We are an agricultural giant, yet food insecurity persists. We lead in renewable energy, yet remain fettered to fossil fuels. These are not failures, these are wake-up calls. Innovation, peace, and justice are not privileges, they're rights. Progress must benefit everyone, not just the few. Brazil stands at the crossroads of the global north and south, not just as a bridge, but as a voice demanding that progress serve humanity, not power. So I ask you, will this conference be just another bureaucratic exercise, or will we have the courage to break free from complacency and force progress? Because if we don't, who will? I yield the floor to the chairs.
Thank you for your speech, Ambassador. Ambassador of Canada.
Madam President, honorable delegates and guests. The international landscape is shifting rapidly. Technological progress is transforming economies, while geopolitical tensions demand renewed commitment to diplomacy and cooperation. Canada remains dedicated to strengthening its strategic partnership, building on our historical close ties with the United States and deepening engagement with European, Indo-Pacific, and global allies to uphold stability and shared prosperity. At the heart of our efforts lies a fundamental principle: security must be human-centered. As conflicts escalate and gender-based violence persists, Canada reaffirms its commitment to advancing human rights, the rule of law, and inclusive economic development. In this decisive moment, we call on all nations to work together to build a future grounded on resilience, accountability, and collective progress. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you for your speech, Ambassador. Ambassador of China.
Madam President, Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates. The delegation of China emphasizes the relevance of strengthening collective action against some of the issues that governments and individuals are facing today. In light of this year's conference theme, it is important to state that China is at the forefront of the innovation of emerging technologies, and while promising, they present significant risks and challenges, particularly to human well-being. We believe in a collaborative approach that ensures these technologies are developed safely and ethically, while still allowing governments to improve and use these technologies for the betterment of their nation, since these technologies have been absolutely crucial to the improvement of economies worldwide. Just last year, Chinese experts on AI, cloud computing, and many other emerging technologies developed a 3-year action plan to strengthen standards in both the use and development of this new industry. We aim to insist other nations to follow our lead and improve the current uncertainty surrounding these new technological developments. Let the many nations here today work together to address today's challenges and build a more secure, just, and inclusive world. Thank you, Madam President.
Delegate of DPRK.
Honorable Secretariat, esteemed guests, fellow delegates, the delegate of the DPR Korea would like to begin this conference by establishing that we too strive to uphold the values that the rest of the House claims to. However, the DPR Korea believes that we in the House do not share the same idea of what these goals actually mean. The DPR Korea believes that modern ideas of peace and justice are propaganda pushed by Western nations to consolidate power on the international stage. The current international system is rigged and perverted to promote the interests of capitalism and Western imperialism, meant to keep the top of the socioeconomic pyramid at the top. Since our great nation was founded in 1948, we have tried to uphold the true ideas of peace and justice, that all nations have the right to their sovereignty, and that all nations have the right to govern their people as their own. To this day, we continue to strive to uphold said ideals and stick up for those nations who do not have a voice in a world that is determined to stop new and innovative ideas arising. which is ironic considering the theme of this weekend's conference. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea believes that over the course of this conference, we can help all present nations change their beliefs so that we can truly strive for a world that values sovereignty, the preservation of individual cultures, and international cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, ambassadors. May the ambassadors of Denmark, Egypt, France, Germany, and Greece line up in front of the set of stairs closest to the podium in that order. Delegate of Denmark, you may approach the podium.
Honorable Secretariat, distinguished delegates, Denmark stands before you all today with a firm commitment to international cooperation in the face of evolving global challenges. As a nation dedicated to diplomacy, security, and sustainable development, Denmark recognizes the necessity of multilateral efforts to ensure both peace and progress. In an era where emerging technologies are reshaping conflicts and cyber threats undermine global stability, Denmark urges the international community to act decisively. Regulation of autonomous weapons, ethical oversights of AI and warfare, stronger cybersecurity cooperation must be prioritized to prevent technological advancements outpacing international law. Innovation should be a tool for peace and not for destruction. Furthermore, Denmark remains deeply concerned about any humanitarian crisis from Haiti to Gaza. We believe development should go hand in hand with stability, and it cannot be achieved without addressing root causes of conflict, such as poverty, hunger, and political instability. Denmark calls for international action that's not only swift, but sustainable and respectful of national sovereignty. With shared commitment to diplomacy and progress, Denmark stands ready with all nations to pursue a safer, more just future. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, Ambassador. Delegate of Egypt.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, and distinguished guests. The Arab Republic of Egypt is honored to address this assembly, reaffirming its commitment to diplomacy, justice, and sustainable progress. Technology holds the power to transform societies, yet without proper legal frameworks, it risks being misused, threatening privacy, security, and sovereignty. Egypt believes that a balanced approach, one that fosters innovation while ensuring ethical responsibility, should be sought for. At the same time, we must confront deeply rooted injustices, crimes committed against women and girls under the false pretense of honor, violate fundamental human rights. Egypt stands firm in condemning such acts and calls for stronger global efforts to eliminate these harmful practices through legal reforms and social empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, Ambassador. Delegate of France.
Honorable chairs, esteemed delegates, and respected guests. It is with great pleasure that France addresses this distinguished assembly at ZYGMUN. As delegates, we are gathered here today, not only as a representative of our nation, but also as a reminder that the world today is at a pivotal point. From rapid technological advancements to international security risks, from migration to human rights crises, intercontinental cooperation is no longer a choice. It is a necessity. France is determined to address these worldwide challenges through the principles of multilateral diplomacy, the advocacy of human rights, and the strengthening of international law. The future of global stability lies not only in the resolutions discussed, but also the connections we build and the understandings we foster. The call for international cooperation is desperate, now more than ever. Let us embrace the productive discussions ahead with diligence and enthusiasm for the greater good. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, Ambassador. Delegate of Germany.
Honorable Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, distinguished guests. In a world of rapid change, innovation is no longer simply an advantage. It has rather become a necessity. Germany stands before this assembly with the determination for fostering innovation. As one of the most developed economies, Germany sees its duty to enhance global innovation with all its responsibility and ensure that advancement is for the benefit of all nations and not just for the privileged ones. Fair access to innovation is fundamental to stability. Germany promotes the idea of equitable cooperation on a global level, so that development brings nations together rather than dividing them, creating long-lasting peace and justice. Approaching this conference with these principles in mind, Germany is motivated to work together to build a better future, as we are the ones who can transform our surrounding into a better, fairer, and more peaceful place. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, Ambassador. Delegate of Greece.
Honorable President, distinguished delegates, Greece strongly believes in the importance of international cooperation to address the oncoming challenges in global security. As new technologies reshape the nature of conflict, we must ensure their responsible and ethical use through frameworks that uphold peace. Additionally, Greece remains deeply concerned about Haiti's humanitarian and security crisis and understands the urgent need for coordinated international support to restore order and promote sustainable development. Throughout this session, Greece will advocate for the ethical governance of emerging military technologies and support UN-led efforts to provide long-term stability in Haiti. We call upon all nations to work together in curating security, transparency, and sustainable peace. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, ambassadors. May the ambassadors of Israel, Pakistan, Panama, Poland, and Republic of Korea line up in front of the set of the stairs closest to the podium in that order. Delegate of Israel, you may approach the podium.
Madam President, honorable delegates, the nation of Israel was founded on the principles of democracy, innovation, and resilience. We are proud of our contributions to science, technology, and assistance to humanitarian efforts worldwide. Yet, we also believe that peace and security remain at the forefront of our concerns. Regional stability, cooperation, and dialogue must be our guiding principles. At the same time, we must address global challenges, such as the environmental crisis, food security, and technological advancements, ensuring that innovation serves humanity as a whole. Israel stands ready to engage in fruitful debate with all nations in order to create a future defined not by division, but by unity and progress. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you for your speech, Ambassador. Delegate of Pakistan.
Honorable President, distinguished guests. Pakistan recognizes that global peace has sharply deteriorated all over the world right now. And the world is in a desperate need for de-escalation. This can be seen with the worrying situation in Myanmar between Russia and Ukraine, the continued Israeli aggression against the people of Lebanon and Palestine, and the ongoing repression by the Indian government against the people of Kashmir. Most importantly, Pakistan expresses the utmost worry in regards to the violence sponsored by foreign powers and organizations wishing to destroy the very existence of Pakistan, as seen with the recent attacks with Balochistan. This is why Pakistan is expressing a deep desire to de-escalate conflicts and achieve peace around the world. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you for your speech, Ambassador. Delegate of Panama.
Deemed esteemed guests, Honorable Secretary, and distinguished fellow delegates. As we all know, in our current climate, the world is often plagued by conflicts, both in the social and diplomatic world. So as we gather for the next few days with the common goal of fostering innovation, development, peace, and justice, I, as a delegate of Panama, hope that we can come together and embark on a journey where our conversations are fruitful and our debates are made in good faith and support for betterment of our world. As a participant of the Security Council, where we will be debating the situation in Haiti and addressing how emerging technologies and international conflicts, the delegate of Panama will ensure that the necessary support and restrictions are placed in regards to each topic. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, Ambassador. Delegate of Poland.
Honorable Secretariat, esteemed guests, and fellow delegates. We are all here to discuss the topic of fostering innovation and development for peace and justice. Poland recognizes the need for establishing legal frameworks to promise that no citizen is negatively affected by the innovation and development of technology in all member states. We also believe that any action should be taken towards achieving international and national peace. We want our citizens to feel safe in their own country and like they are being heard. We want all citizens to have equal opportunities and options. Poland is currently accounted as one of the most peaceful countries in the world, and we aim to keep it that way. We want to continue innovating necessary technologies, but have our citizens positively affected by it and not negatively. We believe in continuing to develop rules, laws, frameworks, etc., that will help further develop technologies and laws to keep our citizens safe. Poland would love to collaborate with other countries and make agreements and resolutions that most to all member states would agree on, but we will not compromise on solutions that will not respect our citizens' human rights. Thank you all, and we are waiting to have an effective and enriched debate.
Thank you for your speech, Ambassador. Delegate of Republic of Korea.
Dear Honorable Secretary General, fellow delegates, and esteemed guests, I'm honored to represent as the ambassador of the Republic of Korea. As we strive towards the 2030 agenda, especially SDG 9 and 16 stand as pillars for a more just, peaceful, and innovative world. Korea's history is a testament to the power of strong institutions, transparent governance, and innovative-driven growth. From rebuilding afterward to becoming a global leader in technology, such as Samsung, we have seen firsthand how peace and innovation go hand in hand. But progress is not for only one nation. Therefore, we must work together to strengthen the rule of law and ensure that innovation benefits all, especially nations such as Haiti. We're also gonna be debating in one of the committees. Technology must bring gaps, not widen them. Bridge gaps, not widen them. Korea remains committed to global commitment and collaboration and building a future where justice upholds, industry drives sustainably, and no one is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you, ambassadors. May the ambassadors of the Russian Federation, Slovenia, the Syrian Arab Republic, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and Venezuela please line up in front of the stairs closest to the podium in that order. Delegate of the Russian Federation, you may deliver your speech.
Honorable Presidency, distinguished delegates, the Russian Federation stands before this assembly at a time of profound geopolitical shifts and evolving tensions, economic instability, and emerging security threats. Russia, our delegation, has been committed to a multipolar international order based on sovereignty, dialogue, and mutual respect. In addressing transnational crime, cybersecurity, and illicit trafficking, we emphasize the necessity of cooperation between nations rather than unilateral approaches that undermine state sovereignty. We are devoted in supporting constructive diplomacy and oppose external interference in the internal affairs of member states. It is solely through balanced, inclusive discussions that we can foster solutions that respect the diverse interests of all nations. We urge the international community to prioritize stability, security, and genuine cooperation over division. Thank you, Presidency.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Slovenia.
Esteemed Presidency and distinguished fellow delegates, directors, and guests, the Ambassador of Slovenia appreciates the honor of being able to address the renowned members of this Assembly on our conference issue of fostering innovation and development for peace and justice. Slovenia, a country surrounded by the chaos of the European continent, is no stranger to what can happen when we don't aspire for peace and justice. Through it all, Slovenia has learned that advocating for global peace and cooperation is the best strategy to make life better for all. Slovenia is ready to work alongside all nations present to have a fruitful and constructive debate. Together, we can foster innovation and development that will lead to a future of peace, justice, and prosperity for all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of the Syrian Arab Republic.
Honorable President, distinguished delegates, Syria sees the need for all nations to cooperate in order to find peace for our world. Syria also believes that in order to achieve a higher level of security and justice for our globe, we must put much more effort and consideration into innovation than we currently do. Syria congratulates the advancements member nations did in order to keep our world safer. This shows that with enough work and innovation, we can make our planet a more peaceful place than it already is. But approximately 100,000 deaths derived from war per year, Syria firmly believes that we must give it a role to protect our nation from conflicts both in nation and outside. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Delegate, for your speech. Delegate of the United Kingdom.
Honorable President, distinguished delegates, in just the past decade, over 75% of the world's population has gained access to mobile technology, connecting people across borders, enabling early disaster warnings, and even facilitating peace negotiations. But with this progress, here comes a question. How do we ensure that innovation serves as a bridge rather than a barrier in our pursuit of peace and justice? The United Kingdom recognizes the immense potential of innovation and technology in shaping a more peaceful and sustainable world. From strengthening global communication to advancing early warning systems, technology continues to offer new pathways towards diplomacy, conflict prevention, and humanitarian support. However, the United Kingdom also acknowledges that these advancements must be accompanied by thoughtful regulation and ethical considerations. The benefits of innovation cannot be fully realized without addressing the risk associated with rapid technological development and unequal access. We believe that through collaboration, transparency, and responsible development, technology can remain a force that unites rather than divides. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of the United States of America.
Honorable Secretariat, esteemed delegates and guests, innovation elevates the life quality of all. Innovation drives progress. Innovation strengthens peace and ensures justice is not just promised, but delivered. The United States stands before you today to reinforce our generous input into the UN with the highest contribution to United Nations peacekeeping operations for 2024-2025. However, let us not lose sight of the most pressing issues threatening global security. Terrorism, oppression of women, drug and sex trafficking. This is and will continue to be our reality if we don't take proper action. The UN has to focus on real problems over the secondary, like the Sustainable Development Goals, goals that our nation rejects in favor of concrete solutions, strengthening security and driving economic prosperity. The United States is ready to work with partners who share the same vision. It is time to wake up and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate, for your speech. Delegation of Venezuela.
Esteemed Presidency, and distinguished fellow delegates, admin, directors, and guests. The Ambassador of Venezuela appreciates the opportunity to address the renowned members of this Assembly on the critical issue of fostering innovation and development for peace and justice. Venezuela understands the weight of our history. We have been victimized by strong nations and powerful unions in which they weaponize the international systems against us. We've been mistreated by the USA as they try to take our strongest economic and financial income. But through it all, we have learned that independence and cooperation must go hand in hand. Our past struggles have not weakened our resolve. They have strengthened our commitment to building bridges, to working together, and to contributing meaningfully to a global future based on innovation, development, and peace and justice, as that is what we all deserve. Venezuela stands ready to work alongside all nations and participate in fruitful and constructive conversations. Together, we can foster innovation and development that truly leads to a future of peace and justice for all. Thank you.
A huge thank you to our 21 ambassadors and their respective schools for all of their speeches. Now, it is my pleasure to invite our Deputy Secretary General, Zosha Pavlak, to give her remarks. Madam Deputy Secretary General, the floor is yours.
Esteemed delegates, distinguished student officers, dear admin, beloved directors, and warmly welcome guests. It is my utmost pleasure to welcome you to the 8th iteration of ZYGMUN Model United Nations. My name is Zofia Pavlak, and I have the honor of serving as your Deputy Secretary General. I am 18 years old, and this is my 3rd year of MUN participation. Last year, I served as a chair of the Economic and Social Council, and I am beyond proud to be part of our remarkable secretariat this year. Since September, we have put our greatest effort into making this conference an unforgettable experience to each and every one of you. It is my sincerest hope that all of you make fantastic memories, engage in fruitful debates, and come to effective solutions during your committee sessions. Outside of your conference participation, I wish you all an amazing time in our beautiful city and highly recommend spending some time in the city center exploring the plethora of beautiful sights that Warsaw has to offer. Today we have welcomed people from all across the globe with different experiences, different lives, to come together, collaborate, and find innovative solutions to pressing issues of today's world. Some of you may be MUN experts, while others may be first-timers, too nervous to speak in your committees, and all I can say is that 3 years ago, I was in the same exact position as you, confused by all the weird motions and procedures, with trembling hands, pondering if I should raise my placard. But the second I raised it, I asked my first point of information, delivered my first speech, I marked the first step of my MUN journey, a journey that has ultimately led me to this moment. The fear was still there, but so was the thrill and the fun. I realized that MUN wasn't just about knowing every single rule or delivering the perfect speech. It was about engaging, taking risks, making memories, meeting people, and finding confidence in my voice. This year's conference theme combines 2 sustainable development goals: industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. The conference theme is fostering innovation and development for peace and justice. We currently live in an age marked by uncertainty. Each day, we are confronted with headlines that remind us of the fragility of peace, the complexity of global issues, and the urgent need for change. From the ongoing conflict in Ukraine to the tragic violence in Gaza, these global challenges demonstrate the complex nature of the issues we must address to secure both progress and equity. As we participate in these debates, it's crucial to recognize that innovation and strong institutions are not merely aspirations. They are fundamental to achieving a world that is both peaceful and just. I would also like to take a couple of minutes to extend my deepest gratitude to everyone involved in the organization of this conference,
To our amazing directors, Mr. Wellborn and Mr. Julian, without your patience and guidance, we truly wouldn't be standing here today. Our remarkable media press team for promoting our amazing conference to the international community. We hope to see even more delegates next year. To our incredible student officers, thank you for your hard work and your commitment. I'm very excited to hear all the debates on these fascinating topics. And lastly, to my dear Secretariat members, Carolina, Maria, Emma, and Val. We've worked tirelessly to bring this conference to life. I truly couldn't have asked for better people to share this journey with. I would like to extend my gratitude towards Carolina and Maria, part of my team, but also my dear friends. We are graduating in 2 months, meaning this is our last MUN conference together, and probably ever we will ever have. There is truly no one else I would rather sharing this stage with. Thank you. I yield the floor to Madam Secretary General.
Thank you to our Deputy Secretary General for your address.
We are now excited to welcome our keynote speaker, Ms. Nona Zicherman. Nona Zicherman was serving in Kosovo as the UNICEF head of office since mid-2021, before arriving in Poland as the UNICEF head here in Poland. She also worked in Turkey from 2015 to 2021, first as emergency coordinator and then as deputy representative. Previously, Ms. Zicherman was UNICEF's Chief of Emergency and Transition in the Democratic Republic of Congo and an emergency specialist in the Eastern and Southern African Regional Office. Ms. Zicherman, we sincerely thank you for coming to speak with us today and warmly welcome you to ZYGMUN. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, esteemed Secretariat, and a big congratulations to all the ambassadors. Your speeches were very good and you were very disciplined with your time, which is more than I can say for many UN meetings I've attended, so big congratulations. Dear students, teachers, parents, it's an absolute pleasure to be with you today to open ASW's own Model UN conference, ZYGMUN 8. I've been asked to speak for around 15 minutes, but that seems much too long to hear only from me, so I hope to keep it a bit shorter and then we can extend the time for dialogue and questions, as I would also like this to be a conversation. My name is Nona Zicherman. I have 2 children here at ASW, and I work with the UN. I have been serving with UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Agency, for 14 years. Last year, I came to Warsaw with my family as the head of UNICEF's Refugee Response Office here in Poland. Although I am speaking today in my private capacity, not on behalf of UNICEF, as both a parent and a UN official, I find it especially moving at this particular moment to see so many young people coming to Poland from all around the world to work together and learn about diplomacy, about international organizations, and to address the pressing global challenges that we all face. This gathering inspires me today because it reaffirms the importance of international cooperation and solidarity at a very difficult moment for our institutions, for the United Nations, and for the rules-based international order. Our purpose, our ways of working, and more importantly, the principles upon which we are founded are being questioned and indeed openly threatened. The United Nations is part of the multilateral system, and it was founded on a belief in the universality of human rights. The UN Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, these are the foundations of the rules-based international order. These are the foundations for peace, for justice, and for strong institutions, which is the focus of SDG 16 and one of the themes of this year's conference. Why are these human rights instruments so important? Why are they the foundation for strong and functioning institutions? Basically, because they are rules. And as we all know from our own lives, from our experiences at home and in school, there is nothing worse than unfair rules. A human rights-based approach ensures that rules are fair, that they apply to everyone equally. This approach is the only way that we can ensure that the strong do not decide for the weak, and that we can protect the most vulnerable and powerless groups in any society. As we are sitting here today in Warsaw, in Poland, it is important to remember that most of these institutions and these human rights instruments came out of the ashes of World War II. World War II, where the rule of the strong and power unchecked by norms or institutions led to horror and atrocity at a scale the world had never seen. Are these rules actually enforced? Are they applied in all situations? Unfortunately, no. Often, I meet young people who are frustrated, who see rights being violated and these rules being broken every day, and they tell me they feel they are meaningless. They are just pieces of paper. But we have to remember the lessons of history, where we are coming from. These rules may be imperfect, they may be aspirational, but the only alternative is what we saw in World War II and what we have seen in wars and conflicts around the world since. That is why, at a very dangerous global moment, we must keep believing and keep pushing to make them a reality. Engaging in dialogue, promoting diplomacy, negotiating with those who may have different positions or beliefs than yours, this is the only way to realize the potential of a rights-based international order. And this is why mobilizing students and young people through efforts like Model UN is actually a really critical contribution. Now, coming back to your focus on SDG 16 in this conference, why are strong and inclusive institutions important? Because these institutions make up the system where the rules can be enforced, especially at national levels. Systems to ensure accountability, courts and judges, strong parliaments, active and independent media are the foundations of democracy, and they ensure that people's lives are not controlled only by the beliefs or wishes of powerful individuals, even if they are elected. In this respect, I would also urge you not to forget about the people themselves and the important efforts made at community level to respond when these institutions are not strong enough, when rights are violated. I think about the thousands of demonstrators who are on the streets today in Istanbul. I think about the youth-led emergency response rooms in Sudan, who are delivering life-saving support to their own neighborhoods and communities in the middle of a terrible war where the international community was too slow and the situation was too insecure to allow international aid. I think about a 71-year-old doctor I recently met from Tennessee in the United States who told me how her church is organizing to protect and provide sanctuary to immigrants who are now at risk in her community. As students and activists who believe in human rights and the importance of diplomacy and dialogue, I urge you to remember that change happens at many levels. Since you are here for an MUN conference, I imagine many of you aspire to careers working in UN agencies and institutions and wearing your suit jackets every day and negotiating in global capitals. This is important work, and I have certainly enjoyed it in my career. But there are many paths and work at other levels that is even more important. So please don't forget those who make change happen locally, in their communities, and for the most vulnerable people around them. Try to see how those of us who are privileged to access great schools like ASW, great universities across the world, and eventually big institutions like the United Nations can support and amplify their efforts and ensure they are included in decision-making. The world may not look like we want it to today, but we are counting on your commitment to human rights, on your energy, and your capacity to innovate to get us where we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, Ms. Zicherman. We will now entertain any questions from the audience. Anyone wishing to direct a question to Ms. Zicherman, please raise your hand to indicate so. An admin will come around and hand you a microphone so that you can raise and state your point of information loud and clear.
You want to go one by one, or you want to take a few and then?
Again, thank you for your speech, ma'am. What has been the most memorable moment working at UNICEF?
Number one? Okay. Thanks. That's a really good question. My first job working for UNICEF was in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And there we had the opportunity, it's a beautiful country, actually. Many people don't think of it like that. But in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo, it's looks almost like Switzerland. You have mountains, and it's really very beautiful. But there are very few roads. It's very hard to access. You have to go by helicopter. You have to go in big 4x4s to get to some of the remote areas. And with UNICEF, we were working there with internally displaced people who were displaced by the conflict from one village moving to another. And traditionally in humanitarian aid, often we give things to people. We give, I don't know, kits and blankets and things that we think they need. But at UNICEF, we were increasingly learning and hearing from people that actually they don't just want what we think they need. Every family has a different situation, every family has different needs, and they want to have more input into what they can receive as humanitarian aid. So instead of giving kits that we had flown in from some place and you know, a standard kit per family, we organized a kind of a marketplace, and basically everybody who was eligible for humanitarian assistance got a coupon, and they could go shopping in this market, and it was local merchants who came with their wares to sell, any kind of household items, buckets, mattresses, soap, shoes for the kids, whatever they needed because they had lost everything when they moved. And it was the first time that many of these people had been in this kind of distribution. Before, they'd stood in line, they'd gotten some food, they'd gotten a mattress, whatever it was, and very often they would have to sell those things because they needed something else. And they would sell it for less, and then they needed that money, they would use it for something else. And the atmosphere was so different at this fair, we called it. People were so happy. They had their dignity. They were shopping like everybody else. And you know, there was music playing, and it was people there, their kids, and it was a really wonderful moment. It was early in using what we call cash-based assistance in humanitarian distributions, but now this is becoming more and more the norm in our field. So that's one of my best memories.
Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, ma'am. What would you say has been the biggest challenge for you while pursuing this career in UNICEF?
I think, you know, one of the challenges is the difference between how we wish things should be and then how they actually are when you start doing it. And I started in this business when I was relatively young, and like you, it was something I always had wanted to do. And, you know, not every organization or institution is the way that we idealize it from the outside. So I think, you know, as I came into UNICEF and I started working within the UN family, I realized that not everything's perfect, not everything's the way it is on paper, and then how you work from the inside to change that and make things, you know, work as you think they should takes a lot of patience. So I'm not a very patient person. Maybe that's been some of my frustration.
Thank you for your speech, ma'am. We would like to ask, you said something, not sure how you phrased it, about the world striving towards the strong not being able to make decisions for the weak. Do you think that it is ever possible, and does it not fight with the way that the world is? It's in itself. Thank you.
Yeah, of course you're right. I think we all have in our minds, probably from the headlines today, different examples of the strong deciding for the weak. And so it's, as I said, it's a bit of an aspiration, right? It's where we would like to be, that every country, every group has an equal voice and has the right to self-expression and determination and make their own decisions. Of course, it's not how the world is right now, but I think that since you're talking about institutions in this conference, how can we use institutions to help get us there, right? I think that's the idea.
Thank you for your speech, ma'am. What was your favorite moment during a UN conference?
This conference or a different one?
No, like when you actually go to the UN.
Oh, okay. Well, I should clarify that you know, the UN is actually a very big structure, right? So you have the United Nations Secretariat that hosts the General Assembly, some of the committees that you're talking about, third committee, fourth committee, and then you have what we call the UN agencies, funds, and programs. So UNICEF is actually one of the funds. It's an organ of the United Nations, but we don't do the General Assembly business, the kind of business that you do here. We have a very specific mandate. We have an executive board that is made up of member states, and they oversee our work in 196 countries all over the world. So actually, I don't do too many New York UN conferences. I would say it's not really part of what I do, but I have colleagues in our headquarters in New York who do that.
Our question as a team is, we were wondering what people can do on the individual level to help support UNICEF's effort to help children who are refugees.
Thanks for the question. So we are very lucky as UNICEF to have something called the National Committees for UNICEF. We have one here in Poland, UNICEF Polska, or the National Committee for UNICEF. We have them in many countries. And these are NGOs that do advocacy for child rights, and they also raise money for UNICEF and our work all over the world. And they actually, depending on which country you're from, we also have a lot of materials, for example, for teaching about child rights in school, learning about the SDGs in school, and engaging more broadly the community in the advocacy for child rights. What you say is super important, because right now, I think reference was made also in the director's speech, rights are under attack, and we all need to learn how to advocate for rights. In my case, it's child rights. There's all kinds of human rights, and we all need those skills. We can all do it in our countries. We can do it in other places. So I don't know which countries you come from, but I would start with the UNICEF national committees in your country, because they have a lot of really good resources.
My question is, why did you go into UNICEF, and why not another UN body?
That's a good question. I'll have to be diplomatic. Mostly because of the mandate. So we're very focused on children and child rights. And children are a group that, by definition, can't really speak for themselves. They don't vote, right? Children don't vote, and so very often governments, no matter what government or what country, don't make decisions in their interest. So UNICEF works to advocate for children because they need it. They need our voice, perhaps more than adults. So that's why I work for UNICEF. You guys are a good crowd. I was afraid there wouldn't be any questions.
Thank you, Madame, for the speech. I'm curious about, how did you step into the UN family? What was it like?
So I didn't actually start out in this work in the UN. I started out working with some non-governmental organizations who work in international humanitarian aid. So I think there are many different ways and paths that people come to for the UN. For me, it was sort of a choice when I'd already done this type of work in different kinds of structures, more at the grassroots level, and I wanted to work more at the policy level and more at an intergovernmental level. But as I said in my speech, I think it's good to try out different things. And the UN is changing, the sector is changing. It used to be that people would start at a P2 level, it's a kind of junior entry level, when you were, I don't know, 25 and you spend your life there and then you retire. It's not going to be like that, I think, in the future, and I think we really value the expertise and the interest of people who've been in the private sector, people who've worked in civil society, people who come in and out. I think you should think about getting a variety of experiences if you want to work for the UN.
Thank you for your speech. I was wondering what advice you would give to somebody who wants to pursue a career in international diplomacy and would maybe want to work for a UN body.
I mean, I think look at all the different parts of the UN, the different roles, the different aspects. There's agencies, there's the secretariat, there's many different parts, and see where your interest lies. Also, depending on what country you come from, I think it can be very useful to get experience working in diplomacy in your own government and bring that to the UN. Or, as I said before, I think increasingly we're looking for people also with experience in the private sector. You're talking about innovation. We need all of that as well. So there's definitely not, one path, but first see which part of the UN really speaks to you in terms of its mission, its mandate, its focus.
On the theme of said earlier about children and limited voices, but in a broader sense, have you ever believed that less influential countries have been overshadowed in debate or decision-making within the UN?
I mean, of course, we see the dynamics play out all the time. I think it's not a secret that decision-making in the UN is not at its best, and functioning of the Security Council is not at its best. There's been many different proposals put out by many member states about reform in the Security Council and all of those things. I do think actually, especially the General Assembly, is one of the few places where less powerful countries do have a voice, do make coalitions, and where you see real exchange and real debate on issues not always linked to sort of traditional definitions of power. But the architecture of decision-making in the UN is dated from the post-war period, and we're in a very different world now.
What are your thoughts on the effectiveness of the UN in addressing these problems? For example, in our committee, we're going to be addressing how exactly we could reform the UN, what we could do to change it. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts. What might be some of the problems that the UN is facing, and what are some ways that you believe those problems could be fixed?
Yeah. That's a very live discussion. You may have seen in the news that the Secretary General just announced a big reform effort called UN-80, which is a very ambitious kind of acceleration of some of the UN reform processes to respond to the current situation. I think there are a couple of issues. One is, from the outside, people often look and say the UN's not doing this or the UN's not doing that. The biggest challenge is that the UN is the collection of member states. The Secretary General often says he's one of the least powerful people in the world. And it's because it is the member states that decide. So often, agencies or different parts of the UN are limited in the autonomy that they can have to really push certain things forward that from the outside you might think is the responsibility of the UN. I also think that we, and this has actually been announced as part of this UN-80, that there has been a proliferation of mandates given to UN agencies and the resources haven't followed. So member states have said to UN agencies and to the UN, do X, do Y, take care of these very, very broad scope of problems, but the resources and the power hasn't followed to do that. So in some ways, I think in certain areas we're being set up to fail. And there's many initiatives we've called on member states, for example, to give more predictable, flexible funding so that we can be more agile, so that we can respond to emerging issues. And frankly, the member states haven't always been consistent in responding to those calls.
So you mentioned in your previous answer that you worked with UNICEF in the Congo, and you were dealing with cash-based assistance. However, what would you do in a situation in which aid wasn't coming in, and how would you overcome that?
So I didn't hear the last part. Can you say it again?
What would you do in a situation where that aid wasn't coming in? How would you overcome that?
It wasn't coming in because the security, or because there wasn't money, or why is it not coming in?
No, let's say security.
So this is a really real problem that many of my colleagues face who are working in crisis areas. Normally, it depends what kind of project, it depends what kind of aid. One of the main things that we do is negotiate for humanitarian access, negotiate with the warring parties. And that's where these principles, the rules of war, appealing to the interests of children, for example, we negotiate to say, okay, for example, let's have a ceasefire for 10 days so we can do polio vaccinations. Let's make a corridor so that trucks can come through with supplies. Let's allow child soldiers to be airlifted out of this area and taken to a place where they can be demobilized, for example. So humanitarian negotiation is super important, and that is really based on your neutrality, your reputation, making sure that you are always fair and neutral on the ground, and that all the people in that conflict see that you're just there for children and for humanitarian reasons. So we spend a lot of time trying to preserve and protect UNICEF's brand, our independence, our neutrality for that purpose, to be able to do those kind of negotiations in certain situations.
So a similar question was already asked, but what would be one advice that you would give to young people like us? Thank you.
About?
Yeah, in general.
Oh my God, I don't know. Don't give up. Don't get too discouraged by the news. And I think we do have a tendency to focus a lot on the negative because it makes headlines. So, I think there's also a lot of really positive things happening. There's a lot of opportunities for positive change, and don't get too discouraged by what's happening out there. I think there's one up here.
This was also a similar question as before. When you were with the UNICEF in Kosovo, what was a really memorable experience that you had there? Thank you.
So in Kosovo, actually, we did a lot of programs working with young people, with youth, sort of, let's say, 18 to 24 even, or 16 to 24, not just small children. And the reason was because Kosovo has actually the youngest population in Europe. And they have a lot of challenges. They have challenges on education and employment for these young people. But young people in Kosovo are really fun. They're really innovative and creative, and they're always looking for opportunities. So I think my best memories are visiting some of these programs. We had a program called Upshift, which basically puts young people into teams, and they design solutions for their communities to the problems that they see. And there's a kind of a contest, and then they get seed money. The top 5 teams, have the best idea, sort of get seed money to run these projects in their communities. And it was always really fun to see what they came up with and talk to them. I enjoyed that a lot. There's one up here, I think.
Thank you, ma'am, for the incredible inspirational speech. I would like to ask you a question regarding the Ukrainian refugees and the rapid increase in Poland, in particular children. And I would like to ask how does the organization reacted to this increase in refugees, and what challenges has it faced since 2022? Thank you.
You said the increase in refugees in Poland is the question.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, indeed, Poland is hosting a very large number of Ukrainian refugee children and families. I think the second largest in Europe after Germany. And Poland has done a really great job, has been very generous, and I think a lot of Ukrainian families have found safety and support and integration here. I think one of the biggest challenges was education. I think many Ukrainian families were not sure how long that they would stay. And at the beginning, many decided to stay with their children learning online in the Ukrainian system rather than putting them in schools in Poland because of the language barrier, because how long would we stay, we don't know. But this wasn't necessarily ideal for kids because even before the escalation of the war in Ukraine, many were learning online because of the COVID pandemic. And it's not good, you probably remember, to have even 4 years at this stage of online learning. So as of September this year, the Polish government made it an obligation for Ukrainian parents to send their children to Polish schools. This has been really a challenge for some, especially I would say, secondary school students. I think for littler kids it was easier, but it's been a big change for them. Yeah, that's something that we're working on, that our partners are working on, and we hope they'll be okay. But we hear from them that it's really hard to go in as a 15-year-old or 16-year-old and go to a new school in a new country, in a new language. So.
How do you think that the United Nations will look like in the future?
That's a really good question. I wish I had the answer to that question. I really hope we will still be here in the future. That's the first thing, and I think we have to be. I hope we will be a little bit more agile. I hope that the decision-making processes that we were just talking about might be changed. And I hope that we are really relevant and that people and countries around the world all support the United Nations because they see the impact and the necessity of what we do.
What do you think is the biggest global issue that UNICEF has yet to tap into?
I would say that climate change has been a challenge for us because it's not a traditional area in which we worked. You know, there are other agencies like UNDP who traditionally worked on the environment, or UNEP, for example. And UNICEF has always worked on issues in sectors that are really important for children, like health, like education, access to clean water, these types of issues. But, you know, when it became clear of the scale of the climate crisis and the fact that if we didn't address the climate crisis, all of these other things wouldn't matter, then as UNICEF we had to think about, okay, what's our added value here? What can we do about the climate crisis? And I mean, we're still trying to figure that out, but it was, frankly, young people that told us, you know, we work with them a lot, and they said, it's great you work on these things, but the thing that keeps us up at night, that gives us anxiety and depression, is the climate crisis. What is UNICEF going to do about it? So we had to really shift and think about how to work in that space.
Thank you. Due to time constraints, we will unfortunately not be entertaining any further points of information. Ms. Zicherman, on behalf of the ZYGMUN Secretariat, thank you for your support of our conference and for your insightful remarks. We're honored to have been able to hear you speak today. Please accept this as a token of our appreciation.
Right.
Now, it is my pleasure to invite our Secretary General, Karolina Kowalska, to give her remarks. Madam Secretary General, the floor is yours.
Honorable delegates, esteemed student officers, beloved directors, dear admins, and most welcome guests. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to the 8th iteration of the ZYGMUN Model United Nations Conference. It is an honor to be serving as your Secretary General and to be part of this illustrious secretariat. What you will see this weekend is the fruit of many months of hard work and dedication from our dear directors, my fellow secretariat, the wonderful student officer team, distinguished admin, the press team, and others. I have no doubt that this ZYGMUN will be a great success this year. I am especially excited about the conference theme. It has been a tradition for the near decade worth of ZYGMUN conferences to assign a sustainable development goal, or two, as the conference theme. Funnily enough, towards the end of 2019, the Secretariat chose the SDG of health and well-being to be the theme, and months later had to switch to an online format last minute because of the COVID-19 pandemic. I've had the privilege to be among those who decide the conference theme for 3 years now. To honor the tradition, this year, we chose a combination of Sustainable Development Goals 9 and 16, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. An interesting combination, this year's conference theme brings together two very contrasting ideas: justice and anti-corruption, and development and infrastructure. So, what is the connection between these two goals? On October 15th, 2023, a whole 74% of the Polish population voted in the parliamentary elections, the highest turnout since the intense 1995 presidential election. This 2023 election was a crucial one, as it decided the fate of the leading party at the time, Law and Justice. Though Law and Justice won the majority in the parliament, interestingly enough, the opposition parties, such as Donald Tusk's Civic Platform, all formed a coalition together, which then actually formed a majority over Law and Justice. That party ended up having a government, prime minister, and a board of ministers for only 3 weeks before the Law and Justice prime minister lost the vote of confidence and Donald Tusk won. Aside from the fact that this election meant so much to the government of Poland and its citizens, its aftermath was also immediate and shaking. It represented a huge change, not only to the leadership and parliament, but also to the ministries and offices, which needed a massive revitalization. The main thing that needed fixing? Corruption. The general problem in the Law and Justice Party was quite simple. Authority figures would use tax money to pay for their vacations. Every member of parliament was held above the law. And interestingly enough, infrastructure was greatly impacted. For example, the government's investments in railroads and revitalization of train lines essentially halted due to great miscoordination and misallocation of funds. And while the rest of Europe was connecting through intercity and interrailing, Poland fell behind on many connections. It's a simple cause and effect, but it goes to show the importance of strong government in any regard. No policy or goal can be successful if the rule of law is not upheld. So, my message to you delegates is to recognize the connections of your committee's topics with the conference theme and put careful consideration into the kind of cause and effect your proposed policies can foster. Take into account the importance of just institutions, and if you're a corrupt country yourself, try to play around with that status. Don't outright say we are corrupt. Instead, find some more clever ways to incorporate the status of your government into your policies. ZYGMUN is my last conference in high school. I will never have the privilege of attending a high school model UN again, and I will never be able to experience that same creativity of producing speeches, writing clauses, and playing around with my country's policy. So take that opportunity to talk. Ask that question when it comes to you, and never say, never mind, or we retract our point. Thank you. I yield the floor to the Deputy Secretary General, Zosia.
Thank you, Madam Secretary General, for your speech.
I will now be introducing our student officers and their respective committees. In the Security Council, the chairs are Maeli Galarza and Elena Sharaf. In the Disarmament and International Security Committee, the chairs are Jana Stern and Lucia Pearl. The presidents of the Economic and Social Council are Louis Rediger and Liana Spazania. The directors of the Office on Drugs and Crime are Zuzana Leoniuk and Sturgios Derluin. The chairs of the Future Committee are Alexander Buksovich, Clara Anderle, and Annie Kirsten. And lastly, the chairs of the Legal Committee are Isabella Prouty and Clara Morales Alarquet.
We would like to extend our sincerest gratitude to every single one of you student officers for their hard work and commitment to ZYGMUN over the past few months. As our opening ceremony comes to a close, I would like to announce our guest speaker for this conference, Anna Djordjevic, an international law expert with experience in human rights, international justice, and combating hate crimes. She will be speaking to the legal committee in its committee room C107 on Friday at 1 p.m.
Please go straight to your committee rooms tomorrow. You can find the school map in the programs you received in folders. Students wearing blue ties are admins who are responsible for helping you navigate around the school. Please feel free to ask them anything if you're lost in the school. The rooms where the reception will be the conference headquarters for anything that comes up, such as badge reprints or lost placards. We're excited to see you all in committee tomorrow morning at 8:30.
With that, it is my honor and pleasure to declare the 8th session of ZYGMUN Model United Nations officially open.